The hormone replacement industry is a $20 billion empire, yet our vitality is disappearing. We have 30-year-olds with the energy of seniors and seniors who feel like they're running on empty. But look at this. A 92-year-old blacksmith in a remote mountain village still swings a 10-pound sledgehammer all day. He never took a booster in his life. His secret? Item number 3 on this list. It costs pennies. It's a waste part of a common vegetable, and it's a biological furnace for your metabolism. Today, as a doctor, I'm revealing the 7 forgotten vitality staples that rebuilt human endocrine fire from the ground up. Let's look at the pot. Staple 1. The masculine zinc anchor, the pumpkin seed mash. In the rural farming communities of the early 20th century, no part of the harvest was ever discarded. When the pumpkins were carved or cooked, the seeds were saved, dried, and ground into a thick, gritty mash. This wasn't a snack. It was the masculine anchor. As a doctor, when I look at pumpkin seeds, I see a clinical dose of zinc and magnesium. Zinc is the fundamental building block of testosterone and the primary fuel for the prostate and the immune system. But the secret was in the preparation. Our ancestors didn't buy salted, roasted seeds in a plastic bag. They ate them raw or lightly sprouted, preserving the delicate oils and the delta-7 sterols that protect the hormonal glands. One 95-year-old farmer I spoke with told me that a handful of these seeds was his daily strength. He didn't have the metabolic slump that modern men face because his zinc levels were constantly topped off by a 5-cent seed. This humble mash is more effective at protecting your endocrine health than any $80 male vitality supplement. It is a biological shield for the very essence of human fire. In the industrial towns of the 1940s, cabbage and turnips weren't just calories, they were a hormonal wash. During the hardest years, mothers would make a dish of slow-simmered cabbage with a splash of vinegar and a handful of caraway seeds. To a doctor, this is indole 3-carbinol therapy. We live in a world of xenoestrogens, chemical mimics found in plastics and pesticides that clog our hormone receptors and cause weight gain and fatigue. The sulfur compounds in cruciferous vegetables are the only natural substances capable of helping the liver metabolize and clear these toxic estrogens. The vitality generation didn't have hormonal imbalances because their diet was constantly scrubbing their internal environment. They ate their cabbage daily, ensuring their metabolic pathways were never blocked. This 15-cent bowl of greens is the reason why a 90-year-old grandmother often had more metabolic snap than a modern office worker. It's not just fiber. It's an endocrine detergent that the processed food industry has replaced with inflammatory sugars. Staple 3. The iodine, sea mineral. Steep, the thyroid ignition. Before the invention of metabolism boosters, people in coastal and even inland regions relied on sea mineral steeps. They would take small amounts of dried kelp or even crushed seashells and simmer them into their broths. This is the thyroid ignition. The thyroid is the master controller of your metabolism. It requires iodine and selenium to function. Today, we are seeing a hypothyroid epidemic because our soil is depleted and our water is filled with fluoride, which blocks iodine absorption. The survivors of the hardship era had a metabolic fire that never went out. By using these sea minerals, they were fueling their thyroid at a cellular level. One 91-year-old former sailor told me he never felt the cold, even in the dead of winter. His internal furnace was burning at 100% because he never lacked the trace minerals that modern nutrition ignores. This waste from the sea is a 10-cent insurance policy against the slow, creeping fatigue of a failing metabolism. It is the forgotten key to human energy. Staple 4. The Steroid Bridge, the raw saturated fat. In the 1930s, the golden fuel of the working class was raw butter and lard. We have been told for 50 years that these fats are killers, but for the vitality generation, they were the steroid bridge. Every hormone in your body, testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, is made from one thing: cholesterol. When we switched to low-fat diets and seed oils, we effectively cut off the raw materials for our own hormones. We starved our endocrine glands in the name of heart health, only to see heart disease and hormonal collapse skyrocket. The blacksmith who swung that 10-pound hammer lived on thick slices of bread covered in raw fat. He was providing his body with the stable, Saturated lipids needed to build his own vitality. He didn't need a hormone patch, he had a fat anchor. As a doctor, I see the low cholesterol generation suffering from a loss of grit and fire. By returning to these stable, ancestral fats, we provide the body with the structural integrity it needs to remain powerful into old age. This is the vitality secret that Big Pharma wants you to fear. Staple 5. The red root. Blood wash. The glandular flow. In the villages of Eastern Europe, the red root, the beet, was a sacred survival food. But they didn't just eat it. They fermented it into a drink called kvass. To a doctor, this is nitric oxide engineering. Beets are rich in inorganic nitrates that the body converts into nitric oxide. This molecule relaxes the blood vessels and increases oxygen delivery to every gland in the body. If your endocrine glands don't have blood flow, they can't produce hormones. The vitality generation had glandular flow. They didn't have the cold hands and feet that signal metabolic decline. Their blood was rich, red, and fast-moving. One woman I interviewed, who survived the hardest years of the war, drank a glass of beet kvass every morning. At age 94, her skin was radiant and her energy was boundless. She was washing her glands every single day with a 10-cent root. This is the blood wash that modern energy drinks try to replicate with synthetic caffeine and chemicals that actually constrict your vessels. Staple 6. The bitter liver. Spark. The hormone clearance. We have spoken about the liver before, but its role in vitality is irreplaceable. Our ancestors ate the bitter roots, chicory, burdock, and dandelion, not as a detox but as a daily spark. The liver is where 80% of your thyroid hormone is converted into its active form. If your liver is congested from sugar and seed oils, you will feel tired no matter how much you sleep. The bitterness of these roots triggers the release of bile, which is the liver's way of excreting old, used-up hormones. The survivors of the 1940s didn't have hormonal buildup or stagnation. They kept their internal drainage open. By tasting the bitter, they were signaling their body to stay metabolically aggressive. This 5-cent ritual is the difference between a body that feels clogged and a body that feels electric. It is the metabolic spark that allows a 90-year-old to wake up with the same drive they had at 20. Staple 7. The mushroom. D-synergy, the adrenal buffer. Finally, we have the wild mushroom steep. In the forests of the old world, mushrooms were the meat of the poor, but they were also the adrenal buffer. Wild mushrooms are the only non-animal source of vitamin D, and they are packed with beta-glucans and selenium. But their most important role was in the adrenal glands. Modern stress creates a constant cortisol leak that drains our vitality. The adaptogenic compounds in wild mushrooms help the adrenals reset after stress. The vitality generation lived through world wars and famines, yet they didn't have burnout. They had a biological resilience built on these earthy staples. They were buffering their stress hormones with every bowl of mushroom stew. I spoke with a retired woodsman who reached 101 with his fire still burning. He told me, "The forest gives you what the city takes away." He was right. He was using a 0-cent staple to protect his endocrine system from the wear and tear of a hard life. The $20 billion hormone industry doesn't want you to look at a pumpkin seed or a cabbage leaf for your vitality. There is no profit margin in a jar of beet kvass or a pinch of kelp. They want you to believe that your fire is something that inevitably fades, a decline that only their expensive synthetic solutions can mask. But the 92-year-old blacksmith and the 101-year-old woodsman prove them wrong. They show us that the human metabolism is not a fading candle. It is a metabolic furnace that requires specific, cheap, and ancestral fuels to remain roaring for a century. They survived the impossible not because they were lucky, but because they were biologically fueled by the very things we now call peasant food. My challenge to you is simple. This week, don't buy a booster. Make the pumpkin seed mash. Try the beet kvass. Cook a pot of bitter roots. Sit at your table, set a place for yourself, and eat it slowly. Feel the zinc, the nitrates, and the saturated fats entering your blood. Feel the connection to the generations of humans who stood strong and stayed fired up until their final day. Your vitality is not a product. It is a heritage. These 7 forgotten staples are the protocol of the most energetic, resilient humans to ever walk the earth. If this video spoke to the truth you've been looking for, subscribe to the channel. We are tired of the sick care system, and we are getting back to the roots. Share in the comments. Which vitality staple did your family use to stay strong? Because at Vaxalis, we believe the best hormone therapy is what's simmering in your kitchen. I'm the doctor, and I'll see you at the next pod. Thanks for watching.